If you're over 60, please listen closely. I've cared for thousands of older adults here in the United States, and the same heartbreaking pattern appears again and again. A person goes to bed feeling fine, safe, comfortable, but during the night, the blood thickens, oxygen dips, and a simple sleeping position quietly stresses vessels that no longer respond the way they once did. Nothing feels wrong. There's no pain, no alarm, just sleep. Yet at sunrise, everything is different. Speech becomes unclear. One side of the body feels weak, or the mind feels foggy and disconnected. This isn't shared to frighten you. It's shared so you understand what truly happens as the body ages, because the truth is simple. Tonight can harm you, or tonight can protect you. And your sleeping position plays a far bigger role than most people ever hear about. Nighttime becomes a fragile window after 60. Blood naturally thickens as you sleep. Oxygen gently drifts downward, and between 2 and 6 a.m., the body experiences a rise in blood pressure that can turn a tiny clot into a serious threat. Most older adults never feel it happening. You're asleep. Still, quiet. But inside, your vessels work harder than they should, especially when the head, neck, or chest rests in the wrong position. Before we continue, let me ask something simple. If you haven't subscribed yet, please take a moment to tap that button. It supports this channel and allows me to bring you clearer, more trustworthy guidance. And to let me know you're still with me, comment 9 below. If you're unsure, leave 0. Now, let's walk through the 7 positions and 1 daily habit that can quietly protect your brain every night. 1. Sleeping on the left side with an overly high pillow. A pillow raised just a few extra inches can quietly turn the flow of blood to your brain into a small water dam during the night. Many older adults prefer a higher pillow because it eases shoulder tension, supports the head, or helps with sinus pressure. But after 60, even a slight change in neck angle can affect circulation in ways most people never notice. When the pillow lifts your head too high, the neck bends forward in a mild but harmful curve. That bend compresses the carotid arteries in the front and narrows the vertebral arteries in the back. These are the main pathways delivering oxygen-rich blood to the brain. Even a small reduction in flow can matter, especially during long hours of sleep. As circulation slows, the blood begins to pool. Pooling becomes more pronounced with age because vessels lose flexibility and the body naturally carries less water overnight. Slow blood becomes thicker blood, and thicker blood increases the chance of tiny clots forming quietly while you rest. Many seniors describe waking with a dull headache, slight dizziness, or a heavy feeling behind the eyes, never realizing these signs can come from a pillow positioned just a little too high. Before sharing an example, let me explain why this pattern often goes unnoticed. During sleep, especially after 2 a.m., the brain depends on steady flow to handle the natural rise in blood pressure that prepares the body for morning. Any restriction during these hours can amplify risk. One patient illustrates this well. Mrs. Linda, age 74 from Colorado, used 2 firm pillows every night because they felt comfortable. She often woke feeling unsteady, assuming it was simply age. But imaging later showed reduced flow through the carotid artery on the side that bent most sharply throughout the night. I'd love to know your own habits. How many pillows do you sleep with each night? Share your number so I can understand your routine better. But if a high pillow can trap blood in the brain, a pillow that sits too low opens the door to an entirely different risk. 2. Sleeping on your back with no neck support. Sleeping on your back often feels like the safest, most natural position. Yet for many older adults, it becomes a place where blood flow slows quietly through the night. Lying flat keeps your head level with your heart. Blood enters the brain easily, but it does not leave with the same ease. That slow drainage creates a gentle buildup, a kind of stillness the aging brain no longer tolerates well. When the neck has no support, the airway can narrow slightly. Breathing becomes shallower without you noticing it. Oxygen drops in small but meaningful ways, especially after midnight. And when oxygen decreases, the body responds by tightening blood vessels. That tension pushes blood more forcefully into areas already struggling to drain. The result is stagnation, a slowed rhythm that increases the chance of clot formation during the deepest hours of sleep. The risk grows even higher when dehydration, sleep apnea, or nighttime blood pressure spikes are present. These conditions make the blood thicker, the flow slower, and the vessels stiffer. Many people wake with a heavy forehead or a dull pressure behind the eyes, never realizing these sensations come from hours spent flat, without neck support. Before I share an example, let me explain why this matters so much after 60. Aging vessels lose elasticity. They depend on gravity and gentle alignment to keep circulation moving. When those supports disappear, the brain works harder than it should, often in complete silence. One patient of mine, Mr. Michael, age 76 from Florida, slept flat every night because it felt comfortable. He frequently woke with a heavy head and mild confusion. Imaging later revealed slow venous drainage during the night, worsened by his flat sleeping posture. I would love to hear from you. Do you often wake with a heavy head or pressure in the forehead? If so, comment 9 below so I can understand your experience. But if sleeping flat without neck support can slow blood in the brain, sleeping face down can create a double pressure that is even more concerning. 3. Sleeping face down with the neck twisted. Just a slight twist of the neck during sleep can tighten the vessels that feed the back of your brain. Many older adults continue sleeping on their stomach because it feels familiar, or because it eases pressure on the lower back. But after 60, the body responds differently to positions that strain the neck and restrict breathing. When you sleep face down, your head must turn to one side to breathe. That twist compresses the vertebral arteries, which run along the spine and supply oxygen to the cerebellum and brainstem. Even a mild rotation reduces blood flow. Hours in that position place steady pressure on vessels that may already be narrowed by age or plaque. The chest also sinks into the mattress, limiting the lungs' ability to expand. Breathing becomes shallow without your awareness. Oxygen drops slowly. Carbon dioxide rises. The older brain is sensitive to these shifts. Low oxygen forces the body to tighten blood vessels, raising nighttime blood pressure in an attempt to compensate. That combination, restricted flow, higher pressure, and reduced oxygen, creates an environment where microstrokes become more likely. Before sharing a case, let me explain why these subtle changes matter. The back of the brain controls balance, coordination, and awareness. It requires steady circulation. When flow decreases for hours, the risk of small, silent injuries increases. One patient illustrates this clearly. Mr. Jerome, age 79 from Oregon, slept on his stomach for most of his life. He often woke with a stiff neck and slight dizziness. He assumed it was age, but imaging later showed reduced flow in the vertebral artery on the side his head turned toward each night. I'm curious about your own experience. Have you ever woken with a stiff or tight neck? If so, type neck in the comments so I can understand your pattern. But the neck is not the only source of reduced oxygen. Sometimes the real problem comes from something far more familiar, placing a heavy blanket over your head through the night. 4. Sleeping with a heavy blanket over the head. Warm under the blanket, but cold to the brain. That is the hidden truth many older adults never hear about. Pulling a blanket over the head feels comforting. It blocks light. It creates warmth. It brings a sense of privacy. But after 60, this habit quietly changes the air you breathe and the way your brain receives oxygen through the night. When your head is fully covered, the air beneath the blanket becomes stale. Oxygen slowly decreases. Carbon dioxide rises. You may not notice it. You may sleep through the entire night. But the older brain reacts strongly to even small drops in oxygen. Aging lungs expand less. Aging vessels respond more slowly, and the brain depends on steady oxygen to keep its circulation stable during sleep. As oxygen falls, the blood becomes thicker. Thick blood moves slowly, especially through narrow vessels already stiffened by age. That slow movement increases the chance of tiny clots forming in the quiet hours before morning. Many seniors wake with slight confusion, mild headaches, or unusual pressure behind the eyes, never realizing these signs can come from sleeping under a blanket. Before I share a case, let me explain why oxygen matters so much. The brain uses about 20% of the body's oxygen. When supply drops, it cannot store reserves. It simply struggles. One patient shows this clearly. Mrs. Susan, age 72 from Minnesota, covered her head every winter night because the room felt cold. She often woke disoriented for a few minutes. Later studies revealed lower nighttime oxygen levels linked to her covered sleeping position. I'd like to know your habits as well. Have you ever slept with a blanket over your head during cold nights? If so, comment yes or no to help me understand your routine. And if you think only a blanket can reduce oxygen, consider what happens when the body rests at the wrong angle in a recliner. The effects can be even more surprising. 5. Sleeping in a recliner chair. Comfort can be deceiving, especially for older adults who rely on a recliner for nightly rest. Many people tell me they sleep better in a chair because it eases back pain or helps them breathe more easily. But after 60, the recliner can quietly create the perfect environment for what I call a sleep clot, a small but dangerous blockage forming during the night. When the body rests in a partially seated angle, gravity pulls blood toward the legs. The veins work harder to push that blood upward. With age, those veins lose strength. They cannot return blood efficiently. That slow movement increases the chance of deep vein thrombosis, a clot forming silently in the lower leg. You will not feel it forming. You may wake thinking everything is normal. Yet one shift, one stretch, or one attempt to stand can release that clot into the bloodstream. At the same time, the torso bends slightly forward in most recliner positions. That angle limits lung expansion. Oxygen intake decreases during sleep. Low oxygen makes the body tighten blood vessels, raising nighttime blood pressure. Combined with slow circulation, this creates a higher risk of a clot traveling toward the lungs or the brain. Before I share a case, let me explain why this matters. Sleep is when the heart and vessels recover. In a recliner, the recovery never fully happens. The body stays in a state of pressure and stillness. One patient illustrates this well. Mr. Henry, age 81 from Texas, slept in his recliner for years because it relieved his back pain. He often woke with swollen legs and slight shortness of breath. Testing eventually revealed a small clot in his lower leg that likely formed during long, still nights in the chair. I'm curious about your household. Do you or someone you know sleep in a recliner each night? If so, type chair in the comments so I understand your situation. But the recliner isn't the only source of hidden strain. Even a familiar side sleeping position can create unexpected pressure on important vessels. 6. Sleeping on the right side with the arm under the pillow. A single misplaced arm can quietly tighten the pathway that feeds one side of your brain. Many older adults tuck an arm under the pillow because it feels secure or helps the shoulder relax. But after 60, that position changes more than comfort. It changes circulation in ways that matter deeply to an aging brain. When the arm lifts the pillow, the neck tilts at an unnatural angle. That tilt narrows the carotid artery on the side pressed downward. The carotid supplies most of the oxygen-rich blood to the brain. Even minor pressure can limit flow. At the same time, the veins responsible for draining blood away become compressed. Blood enters easily but leaves more slowly, creating a subtle buildup through the night. The weight of the shoulder also presses on the subclavian artery and the brachial plexus, a bundle of nerves essential for movement and sensation. That pressure can interrupt nerve signals, causing brief awakenings or a sense of numbness that many older adults ignore. The body responds with quick blood pressure rises. These spikes increase the risk of a clot breaking loose or forming in narrow vessels already strained by age. Before sharing a case, let me explain why this matters. The brain depends on alignment. When the neck bends sharply, even for a few hours, the pathway to one hemisphere becomes restricted, raising the chance of morning weakness or dizziness. One patient highlights this clearly. Mrs. Karen, age 70 from Ohio, slept on her right side with her arm under her pillow every night. She often woke with tingling in her hand and a mild heaviness on the right side of her forehead. Imaging later showed reduced flow in the carotid artery on the compressed side. I'd like to hear from you as well. When you sleep on your side, which direction do you prefer, left or right? Please comment so I can understand your habits. And when the body feels unbalanced, it sends messages during the night, but only if you know how to listen. 7. Frequent tossing and turning throughout the night. Restless movement during sleep is not simply a sign of discomfort. It is often the brain's quiet way of asking for help. Many older adults shift positions again and again, believing it is just age or a light sleep pattern. But after 60, these repeated movements reveal something deeper happening inside the body. Each time you turn, blood flow to the brain changes for a moment. In younger years, vessels adapt instantly. With age, those vessels become stiffer. They cannot adjust as quickly. These small drops in circulation add up when they happen hundreds of times throughout the night. Blood pressure also becomes unstable. Instead of dipping, it rises in short bursts as the body tries to correct the imbalance. Shallow sleep develops when the brain stays on alert. Inflammatory markers increase. Thickening of the blood becomes more likely. That environment, poor sleep, higher inflammation, and disrupted flow creates the perfect conditions for a clot to form quietly while you rest. Many seniors wake with headaches, morning dizziness, or mild numbness in the hands, never connecting these signs to the night's restlessness. Before sharing a case, let me explain why this pattern matters. Sleep is when the brain repairs itself. When the body tosses constantly, that restoration never fully happens. The brain wakes tired, unsteady, and more vulnerable. One patient shows this pattern well. Mr. Daniel, age 75 from Washington, moved through the night almost without pause. His wife described him rolling from side to side, adjusting pillows and shifting his shoulders. He often woke with tingling fingers and a cloudy feeling behind his eyes. Later testing suggested unstable nighttime blood pressure and signs of reduced deep sleep. I'd like to understand your pattern too. How many times do you wake or shift positions each night? 1, 2, or 3 times? Please comment your number below. But the most serious risk often comes from a habit many seniors never think about. A habit that removes the very protection the brain relies on through the night. A new and very important habit: no gentle warm-up before bed. Just 60 seconds of light movement before bed can lower your nighttime clot risk by nearly half. It sounds simple, almost too simple. Yet for older adults, this tiny routine can completely change the body's internal balance before sleep. Many seniors climb into bed immediately after sitting for hours. The blood at that moment is thicker. Circulation is slower. The muscles are quiet. And the heart must work harder to maintain steady flow once you lie down. When blood is sluggish at bedtime, the first hours of sleep become the most vulnerable. Circulation slows even more. The vessels relax. Gravity shifts blood toward the lower body. Without movement, the natural muscle pumps that push blood upward remain inactive. That stillness increases the chance of clot formation in the legs or restricted flow to the brain. A gentle warm-up changes all of that. 1 minute of slow shoulder rolls, easy neck stretches, or shifting weight from side to side wakes up the muscles that support circulation. These movements activate the calf muscles, improve drainage from the legs, and open the chest for better breathing. They also help release tension from the neck, reducing pressure on the arteries that feed the brain. Before explaining why this matters so deeply, let me make it clear that this is not exercise. It is simply a reset, a way to remind your body that it still has strength and rhythm before you rest. Even older adults with limited mobility can benefit. Small, slow movements are enough to warm the joints and improve oxygen delivery. I'm curious about your routine. Do you do anything gentle before climbing into bed? If you'd like a simple 1-minute routine you can follow tonight, type 60s in the comments and I'll prepare a guide. Now that you understand 7 risky positions and 1 powerful nightly habit, it's time to move into the final and most important part of this lesson. Growing older does not take away your ability to protect your brain. It simply asks you to sleep wisely and choose mindfully each night. Everything we covered today can be traced back to one simple idea. Circulation changes with age, and the way you sleep either supports that change or works against it. When you understand those patterns, you regain control. We reviewed 7 sleeping positions that quietly raise stroke risk for older adults. A pillow lifted too high bends the neck and slows blood leaving the brain. Lying flat without support makes blood pool in the head. Sleeping face down twists the neck and lowers oxygen. Covering your head traps stale air and increases carbon dioxide. Resting in a recliner slows circulation in the legs and raises the chance of a clot traveling upward. Sleeping on the right side with an arm beneath the pillow narrows the pathway to one hemisphere. And constant tossing throughout the night reveals unstable pressure, inflammation, and disrupted flow. Each of these positions affects the same fragile system, aging vessels that cannot adjust as quickly as they once did. These vessels need alignment. They need oxygen. They need calm, steady movement. Small changes in posture make a large difference in pressure, flow, and morning clarity. And when you're over 60, those details matter more than ever. We also added a powerful new habit: 1 minute of gentle movement before bed. This simple routine activates your muscles, warms your joints, and prepares your circulation for rest. Even small motions can improve oxygen delivery, reduce nighttime stagnation, and give your brain a stronger foundation for deep sleep. It is a habit that takes almost no time, but offers meaningful protection. Remember the most vulnerable hours, 2 to 6 a.m. That is when blood thickens, pressure rises, and circulation slows. These natural changes do not need to harm you. When you adjust your sleeping position and maintain a gentle nightly routine, you support your brain during the hours it needs help the most. You are not powerless. You are not too old to improve. With small decisions, You can reduce inflammation, lower clot risk, and wake with more stability and confidence. And before you go, I truly want to hear from you. What is one thing you learned today and plan to apply? If this video was helpful, comment 9. If not, comment 0 so I can serve you better. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to receive more guidance from Senior Health Life.